Hey there, Virgo. How you doing? So it's the day after the full moon in Capricorn, which for you would have been highlighting all things to do with your creativity, your children, everything you've given birth to, and also that sense of excitement and rush in terms of new relationships. This is all about passion and just how passionate your life is. And yeah, I can imagine a full moon in that area could definitely bring some big stuff up. So how are you doing? That's my first big question. So what I'm going to do in this video is pace you through what happens next. So from the full moon in Capricorn right the way through to the new moon in Leo that's coming up on the 24th of July. Now, if you're new to this channel, my name's Louisa Tanner-Munson. Hello, welcome to Feel Good Astrology. If you've been here before and you've come back, then thank you and welcome back. What I'm going to do is work from my slides because without them, I have no idea what I'm talking about. So I'm going to bring them up right now and just want to thank the people that do support this channel, and also people who subscribe to my memberships. I really, really appreciate you. You make it possible for me to do my channel. So thank you. So let's have a look then, shall we? So yes, we've just had the full moon in Capricorn. And as you can see here, everything is illuminated with the full moon. The full moon is bright, it's hard to ignore, and it really sways us. If you think of the waters around the world, aquatic animals, if you think of what's going on with plants, it's rapidly changing things. This particular moment in time is full of intuition and it can be really overwhelming. Sometimes it feels like lots of different things are coming at us from all different areas and it's difficult to kind of narrow it down. And this is what's actually coming up now, is this period of narrowing things down and tightening things up. So we've got the new moon that we're heading towards on the 24th, the new moon in Leo. Now, this, as you can see here from the third quarter point, it's starting to get smaller and smaller. That's how the moon's appearing in the sky. And it's getting darker and darker. This is our cue to go deep inside ourselves, where external issues aren't going to be able to inform us, where we have to inform ourselves. We have to tune in, turn everything off around us, and we have to just go into our own silence, our own knowing, and our own patterns. So this is a very special part of the cycle, I think. Now, if we look at this as a diary entry, you can see both the full moon in Capricorn and the new moon in Leo are happening 2 weeks apart on a Thursday. The third quarter point is happening on the Friday. Of course, this depends which part of the world you're in, but it will pretty much match those. What I noticed straight away, because I like to put in the most important exact aspects that I pick out from my ephemeris, but the things that are exact and most important, there's just very little in the first week, very little at all, and it's all in this second week. And obviously this second week is where we're processing things internally, and yet there's a lot going on. Interestingly as well, Mercury is going retrograde on the day of the third quarter moon. So Mercury going retrograde is also where we are thinking and processing things a lot more personally. We're looking for less external decisions, less external stimulus. We're coming back into ourselves. And so obviously for you, Virgo, Mercury's your ruling planet. So this is a really intense and personal and private last week, I would say. You'll also notice Saturn's going retrograde. I don't think it's quite as important really as Mercury, just, in terms of retrogrades, which ones have the biggest impact on us. Saturn spends, I think, around 4 to 5 months of every year retrograde. So 4 months, I think. And, and so you can't really identify things that obviously across a wide space of time, like a Saturn retrograde. However, we are wanting to structure our lives and discipline, like look at our discipline, look at our ability to create structure and to have status and to build something. We look at our ambition, but from an inward focus. So we're looking at our inner structure, our inner discipline. So this, I think, Virgo, is going to be quite an important 2 weeks for you. Now, this is the full moon in Capricorn chart from a Virgo perspective. And then you'll see, the moon is down here in this 5th house part of the chart. So if you've got children, you may well have found that around the time of the full moon, things with your children got a bit hairy. If you haven't got children, then, most likely, other things that you've given birth to and have a sort of creative relationship with. So that can include, our lovers. Obviously, we're not giving birth to them, but like you're giving birth to the relationship. Everything that you've invested in something very personal can really come under the influence of this full moon in Capricorn. And you'll see that the moon is going to go all the way around until we get to here. And here it is, the new moon in Leo. You'll see Mercury, your ruling planet, is also in the 12th house. Now, Mercury is a fast-moving planet, and yet throughout this whole time, he's stuck in here, and he's going to go backwards, and he's not going to stop until he gets to round about the 11th of August. Then he's going to move forwards again. So this is an extended period of Mercury in your 12th house. Now, that's another indication of a slower time, a more internalized processing of what's going on in your life. The 12th house here is all about your internal world, your inner programming, your insecurities and fears, and some like your memories, your private memories, your shocking memories. It's all, I really think this is the mind, the etheric. If we were looking at the world, I would say that the 12th house, if it was represented by the world, I think it would be like the Akashic records for everybody. So the 12th house is like everything that's happened to you is left its mark somewhere here. And it's a real place where we work things out in private. And so your ruling planet, the sun and the moon, all in this at the time of the full moon, the new moon, is an indication that you're coming into a very, very private, reflective, and maybe a respectful time, a time when you're respectful to yourself. And it's also not a time when you want to be A, doing things fast, B, taking on extra responsibility. That's I would say it's a no right now. It's a time when you just need to come into yourself, ask yourself some deep questions. Now, some other big things that are going on that I do want to talk about, and so one of them is Uranus has just come into the top of your chart. He's just come into your 10th house, which is this part of your chart is absolutely an important house. And so Uranus, which is a bit of a shit kicker, like he is independent, he's eccentric, he's eclectic, he is stop-start, he's chaos. He brings change. And so there is a feeling of huge change. And maybe this is coming in externally. Maybe there's something going on at work right now, which is facilitating a change, or maybe it's just you. And you're thinking into who you are. And right now you don't feel like where you are is the right reflection of you. And so I do think Uranus coming up here is going to absolutely create a lot to think about. You've also got Mars in your first house. Now, it's interesting because Mars in the first house does want to take action and does want to make things happen. But when I think about the rest of your chart, I think, this in the 12th, this in the 8th, these are times actually when you need a lot more self-reflection, a lot, to take things a lot slower than usual. But Mars here in your first house, he's not so active in the sign of Virgo, by the way. But this is a time when you might want to work your physical body. So no matter how much stuff you've got to think out at the moment and work through and understand, and I also think the 12th house is about letting go of your old personality. I really think this first house, and later on this summer, you're going to have the sun coming in here. Mercury will come in here. Venus will later come into the sign of Virgo. This is a time when you will be moving forwards. It's not to say you have to reflect forever, really not. But whilst you're in this reflection stage, I think Mars in your first house is encouraging you to stay physically active. So it might be really good to go for walks in the country, go out in nature, climb, challenge yourself, fishing if you eat fish, and that's part of how you feel enlivened. Anything really to do with being outside, being physical, and feeling like you're taking really good health care of yourself. Now, during this time, Mars is going to come up into a conjunction with the South Node and is going to pass the South Node. Now, on the 21st, he's exactly in opposition to the North Node, exactly in a conjunction with the South Node. Now, this is another big thing that's going on for you at the moment. You know, the South Node in your first house is really showing that your thoughts about yourself are changing. You're able to reflect on the past. You're really consciously aware of who you were. And it almost feels like you're returning to a younger version of yourself. You know, there's a younger version of you that's maybe available to you, you know, like reminding you of all the things you've done, reminding you of everything that you've survived and you've moved beyond. Right now, I think your younger version of you needs to come out a lot more. You need to listen to them. Maybe they had a bit more energy. Maybe they had a bit more courage. You know, sometimes we lose that, don't we? And I think Mars coming into a conjunction with the South Node can really bring up your old courage much better. Now, the North Node going through your 7th house is also showing that you're coming up to a time of changing perspectives in terms of relationships. And of course, really what this is indicating is there's this changing idea of who you are and who they are, and what you need and what they need. And it may feel like you have to do a lot for other people right now. Hence why I can't stress enough that it's time to do stuff for yourself, really, truly. So the last thing I want to share with you, and that is, again, to do with love. Venus is going to be making a square to Mars and the South Node, and also to the North Node. And this is happening. Where is it? Here it is on the 22nd. So it's interesting. The 21st, Mars is involved in this, and on the 22nd, Venus is exactly involved in this. And so that you could consider really for the last week, this is a really big subject for you. But Venus often shows us our lovers. Venus shows us who we might fall in love with. And she's also in the 10th house to do with career as well. So that's a whole other story. But, you know, she's really reminding you of the past, but your maybe discomfort between your roles, the role of being strong and healthy and forceful and making a decision, and then that more passive role, the Venusian role of maybe waiting to see what happens. Whilst you're reminded of a braver, more courageous time, I do feel for you to move on in your relationships. It's also time to recognize the sacredness of relationships, and to recognize the non-physical aspects of relationships. To me, it just feels like as you can understand your relationship between yielding and thrusting, between the male and the female, between the taking action and the waiting for action to come to you. To me, what I really see here is there's a lot of old stuff to go through, and for you to decide which one is more important. You know, maybe a healthy way of doing things is to not just have one style, not just to have to stand strong for yourself and kind of plump up your feathers. And maybe it's not okay just to sit back and wait for everyone else to care for you and look after you. There has to be a midpoint, and maybe you can create a new strategy for yourself. But to me, it's revealing itself as something to consider, something to work on. So I think I'm going to leave that there. Now, obviously, I can read these charts in loads of different ways, and this is just as it appears to me. And if you found this helpful, you might already know that I do relationship forecasts and also career forecasts. In fact, you will, because you'll be seeing information at the bottom of this screen telling you about it. If you would like these forecasts and also a daily forecast, then check out the last 30 seconds of this video, where I'll just tell you a little bit more about it so you know how you can sign up for it. So anyway, I hope you have a great 2 weeks ahead, and hopefully I'll catch up with you real soon in another forecast. Lots of love to you, Virgo. So if you're enjoying my forecast every 2 weeks on YouTube and would like to go even deeper into your planetary coding, then why not try out my astrology forecast group? What you'll get for this small investment of $9 a month is a relationship and connections forecast every 2 weeks, a career and ambition forecast every 2 weeks, and also Monday to Friday daily updates where I share everything that I think you might need to know to get into your flow. If this sounds good to you and you want to join, then all you need to do is click on the link in the description field below.